This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to visit us online, our website is www.xzoneradiotv.com. X-Zone Nation, it's not an anomaly that 70,000 fish washed up in the waters of Marina del Rey over the weekend. Just asked my guest this hour, Patricia, Cori, a marine conservation expert and the author of The Emissary. Patricia writes about a similar devastating event in The Emissary and has dedicated her life's work to creating awareness of the tragic impact of our actions that we continue to make, even though we see it firsthand, that we are actually destroying this beautiful planet we live in. Now, Patricia is a best-selling author, screenwriter, public speaker, and has been interviewed on hundreds of radio and television programs. She's credited with founding the global nonprofit Save Earth's Oceans, Inc., whose mission is dedicated to restoring the balance of the ocean's ecosystem. Her website is www.theemissary.net. And Patricia, great having you here with us on the X-Zone. And hey, hats off to you for the great work you're doing.
Thank you, Rob. Same to you. Thank you for all you do to bring the truth out to the public.
Well, thank you, dear. Listen. Why did 70,000 dead fish wash up in Marina del Rey that weekend?
Well, of course, there's a lot of hypotheses about this, and the community, let's say the scientific community, is saying that it was about oxygen depletion in the water. But the truth is that this has been happening in the last month. In the month of April, there have been millions of fish dying all over the planet.
Really?
It's the best-kept secret in the world, but, I mean, we're talking China, Iran, and Europe, all over the States. Fish are washing up dead. So something is happening, something that we're not talking about. I would suggest the first thing to look at is Fukushima and the radiation that's surrounding the planet.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, but it's not just isolated to this place. It's happening. I got an email just yesterday with all the different places around the planet where it's taking place. So something big is going on.
So are we talking from small fish to the larger species?
Yes, we have the Marina del Rey situation is a lot of smaller fish like anchovies. But they've also got dead octopus, dead stingrays.
Oh, my Lord.
So it's not just one species of fish that's dead. And they're just washing up 70,000, 80,000 fish just dead floating in the water, which is very eerie because, as you know, if you've read The Emissary, that is a scenario in the beginning of the book.
Let me ask you this, Patricia. If these fish, these 70,000 fish, are washing up and they're dead, apparently with some nefarious cause, what about the fish that are being harvested throughout the oceans for human consumption? Are we putting humans in danger?
Well, I'm an avowed vegetarian, but I don't want to preach to anyone. But
right.
I would consider that now would be an excellent time to revert away from any eating of seafood or fish. Some people say, seafood might be a problem, but fast-moving fish are not a problem. It cracks me up. I mean, why aren't they a problem? The toxicity levels in the ocean is obviously very high. And I do think that between the mercury poisoning, the acid levels in the oceans, human sewage, and a number of other negatives, it would be the time to step away from the seafood platter.
You talked briefly about Fukushima. How deadly is the leaking or the reported non-leaking of nuclear spent waste from that nuclear reactor that you're seeing, that you through your contacts are saying, hey guys, this is a disaster. It's happening. It's not stopping. Like, why isn't anybody really doing anything about it besides you, dear?
Well, I thank you for that, but I'm certainly not the only one concerned. However, not a lot of people are being vocal about it, and there are probably a number of political reasons why it's not long life-inducing to be out talking about such a disaster, because nobody seems to want that information to get out to the public. And, Rob, a lot of people don't want to hear it because it's too frightening. But we do need to hear it because that's the only way that we're going to move into action and do something about it.
So here we're talking about the human ostrich syndrome, as I call it. You know, stick your head in the sand and put your butt up in the air, and somehow, some way, these people expect the problem to miraculously disappear. Well, it doesn't.
That's exactly true. And the thing is, my question is, and what I'm screaming about is, where are the nuclear physicists and the engineers? Why is this not a United Nations global concern where the geniuses from all of this industry...
Patricia, I hate to do this, but I've got to take a break. Please stand by. Exonation, Patricia Cori's my guest, and we're going to be talking more about this horrific topic on the other side of the break. Don't go away. Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Named one of the world's greatest psychics, Elizabeth Joyce is now giving readings worldwide via Skype. Elizabeth Joyce is recognized for her clairvoyant ability to help find missing persons, her analysis of dreams, past life regression work, mediumship, and her accurate predictions. Elizabeth has been a frequent guest on the X-Zone radio show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, now for several years. For an appointment with Elizabeth Joyce, call 201-934-8986 or Skype at elizabeth.joyce. And for more information, you can always visit Elizabeth Joyce online at www.new-visions.com.
Do you have a dis-ease that you would like to alleviate through a natural means? Have you been contacted by angels, ghosts, or even extraterrestrials and want to validate these experiences? Or would you simply like to speak with someone who can help you find your life's purpose? I'm Dr. Joseph Mara, and I'm offering my services free of charge for first-time clients contacting me during the month of April. These free consultations include angel card readings, guided meditations, life coaching, and energy healing. If you have always wanted to explore these types of experiences but were skeptical or simply could not afford them, then take advantage of this free special offer. Contact me through my website, a guiding light spelled LITE.com to schedule your consultation today. Until then, I offer you love, light, and laughter.
Explanation, Patricia Cori is my special guest this hour. We're talking about The Emissary, www.theemissary.net. And, Patricia, you and I were talking about Fukushima and how the nuclear physicists, I agree with you, are really paying very little attention, if any. Mind you, it's just not Fukushima that worries me. It's also the depleted uranium that has been used in many of the different theaters of conflict around the world. There's so much. And you're right. It seems that the scientific community, especially the nuclear physicists who should be all over this like a fat kid over a box of Smarties, but they're not.
Well, there's a lot of political control on these issues, and it's been hands off to the international community. Mm-hmm. And the government of Japan has said TEPCO can handle it. Well, okay, they haven't done a very good job of handling it, and it's not unlike BP oil spill in the Gulf when the United States said, okay, hands off, we're going to let BP clean it up. Mm-hmm. And the question is, this is not a corporate problem, this is a global problem, and it concerns the entire global population and all life on this planet.
Why isn't the United Nations and other worldwide organizations jumping up and down and making sure that something is done about it?
I wish I had an answer for that question. I don't have one, and I don't understand it other than to think. I've said this before on a radio show. It appears to me that there are two options here. Mm-hmm. One is that we're in the hands of totally incompetent people, and the other is that there's some sort of deliberate reason why they are keeping hands off. And both of these scenarios are very frightening.
Sure is. It sure is. Now, in your new book, The Emissary, within the story, you're beating your drums to let us know about how oceans are under attack, not only by pollution, not only by human garbage, human sewage, but by sonar activities. Now, what do you mean by this?
Sonar is an extremely deadly weapon or a tool let's just call it a deadly weapon to animals in the oceans, to to all of us, really. Mm-hmm. Extreme frequency is deadly to any living organism.
Sure.
But for the whales and dolphins, whose oral cavities are the absolute essence of their being, mm-hmm. They move by echolocation, they hunt by echolocation, and they've got these really gigantic oral cavities in their brains and their heads. And when these strong sonar blasts go out, they're becoming deaf, they're becoming disoriented, they're losing their migrational orientation. They can't, they're not, I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for words. They're not mating as they were, they're not birthing as they were, and overall it is a disruption factor for the cycle of these beings' lives. And the United States Navy has just enacted another 5-year war program. They call it maneuvers and testing. I'm not sure why they have to test for 5 years. But part of the testing of the Navy programs is sonar, new electronic weapons, which I don't even know what they are. I've heard they're using laser sonar, which I also don't know about. Explosions, chemicals, bombs, the whole works on the ocean. And this has just been approved and is going through. This will take out, as they say, an estimated 30. First I heard 12 million, then I heard 15 million, and now I'm hearing possibly even 30 million. Read my lips. Whales and dolphins in a 5-year period.
30 million whales and dolphins in a 5-year period.
That's what I'm telling you.
So basically, what we're going to be seeing is the eradication of 2 species by the U.S. Navy.
Well, that's what they're calling it, taking, which they describe as maiming, harming, deafening, or killing. And the numbers keep going up, and we are talking about that kind of numbers. Yes, we're looking at possibly eradicating the whales and dolphins of this planet, and the reason is it's collateral damage.
Yeah.
I think there's more to it than that.
So do I. So do I. But I have to ask you this, in all fairness, where did you get the information from?
Well, I do a lot of research because I've founded an organization called Save Earth's Oceans, and I'm working with researchers out in the field. And I'm also listening to other people there's an organization here in Los Angeles that is filing a suit against the Navy, and I just met with them today, and they gave me those figures. And
Wow.
I'm so embarrassed to tell you I don't have the exact name of the organization on the tip of my tongue, but I will by the end of the program. And they told me it was 30 million, and I almost had a heart attack because I thought it was more like 12.
One of the stories I remember covering a couple of years ago were dolphins that were actually being trained to go into war zones wired with bombs for the military. Is this practice just limited to the United States, and is it still going on?
No, it's not just limited to the United States. In fact, we just heard now about the Ukraine, the war there, and how the Russians have taken the, read my lips, dolphin army from the Ukrainians and are going to be putting them into action for their own usage. So this is not indigenous only to the United States military. It's around the planet.
This is ludicrous. We're using other creatures on this planet to destroy other creatures, being humans.
We're using creatures like the dolphins, who are loving, joyous, incredibly musical beings with what I think is a higher purpose on this planet. And they're being strapped with, of course, nobody's admitting to this, so this is sort of like underground information, because the Navy says that they're being used to sniff out mines.
Right.
But there are also other inside sources that say that they're also being strapped up with bombs.
You know, I've had the opportunity of swimming with dolphins, and they are so intelligent, they are so loving, that it breaks my heart to hear that they're actually being used for this purpose, and to know that, all right, here's a bomb, go put it somewhere. It's a one-way mission. Poof, there goes a dolphin. But when we're talking about millions over a 5-year period of dolphins and whales, all in the name of war, testing war, and they're being considered as collateral damage, something is desperately wrong with this world that you and I are standing on, my dear.
I agree with you. I have to stay as much as possible in positive mode because otherwise I won't be able to proceed as an advocate and an activist for the animals. But I agree with you completely that when human beings, all right, if we can't get our act together and stop warring on the earth, that's a separate issue from the fact that we are now going to bring animals in to fight our wars. Animals that are loving, beautiful beings. Yeah. I agree that there's something very, very wrong on this planet, and that we have got to wake up as a community of global conscious people and absolutely initiate change. And it's a tough one, but we need to do it, and we need to do it very soon.
The sad part, Patricia, is that this is not the first time in the history of our war-torn species that we've used animals. Look at the horses that have been used in battle. Look at the camels. Look at the elephants.
That's true.
We're mean people. We are, we have no right claiming that we are the guardian of animals. We're not.
Well, of course, we aren't all mean, and we aren't all blind, fortunately, to this travesty.
Yeah.
But we've got to reach critical mass now of more human beings who are standing up and saying stop.
Yeah.
And I'm out here doing what I can to help people see this. And this is one of the reasons why I've written my first fiction novel, because up until now my books have all been nonfiction. I wanted to use fiction as a vehicle to be able to reach out to more people.
That is a very smart idea, because I have talked to authors over the years doing this show who have a message to get out there. They can't get it out in the conventional way, yet they put it in a fictional scenario, and the message is hit home. So
Yes.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Good for you. Where do you think dolphins fit into the evolution of this of this planet?
I believe that the cetaceans have a higher purpose on this planet, and that they're, even though we perceive them as joyous, well, when they're not fighting human wars, joyous, life-loving. Let's face it; it's pretty hard not to love a whale or a dolphin. They're so amazing.
They are.
But I think that they have a higher purpose on this planet, and I'd like to go into that if we may.
Why don't we do that when we come back from the news break that we have to take very shortly?
Perfect.
What was your inspiration for writing The Emissary? Was it because you had this information to get out, and you didn't think it would get out through the traditional means, and that you did it in the fictional, or was there something else that was behind all this?
Well, the book before The Emissary is called Before We Leave You, and it was a book of messages from the whales and dolphins, so I was already on that track.
Right.
And then one morning I woke up and said, it's time to write a movie. And I had no experience doing that. I looked up on the internet and looked up how to write a screenplay.
Right.
And bought the software, and I just was off and running. It wasn't really a conscious decision at that point. And other than to think, time to make a movie now. And it just poured out of me.
I'm glad it did. Stand by, dear. You and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. X-Zone Nation, Patricia Cori is our special guest this hour. She's the author of The Emissary, and her website is www.theemissary.net. That's www.theemissary.net. This is the X-Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. And we're coming to you around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. On all social media sites, one simple address, X-Zone Radio TV, and our website, xzoneradiotv.com. And if you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. I'm Rob McConnell. We'll be back after the news. Don't go away. Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of readings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships. Not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598. Now you can dial in to listen to the X-Zone Radio Show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 365.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Patricia Cori is my special guest this hour. She's the author of The Emissary, and her website is www.theemissary.net. Now, Patricia, during the commercial break with the news, you were able to give us get the information about the organization that quoted the 30 million whales and dolphins that would be eradicated over the next 5 years.
Yes, I'm sorry, before I had a little brain fog. The organization is called NRDC. That stands for Natural Resources Defense Council, and their website is www.nrdc.org, and they're doing wonderful work. They are actually suing the Navy.
Wow.
So, yeah, they're really out there trying to make change that way, and hopefully we'll be making some progress here.
Another organization that has been doing a lot of great work when it comes to the whaling industry is the Good Shepherd organization.
The Sea Shepherds.
Sea Shepherd, Sea Shepherd, that's right.
I adore them, and I support them, and Captain Paul Watson is one of my heroes.
Yes.
And when we got the word last month that the High Court of the United Nations had banned Japan from whaling with the guise of research, because they're plucking whales right out of the water in these big ships marked research vessels. And the Sea Shepherds and Greenpeace have a lot of merit of that happening, but they would need to be remaining vigilant because the Japanese will probably just find a new a way to get around that, call the ship something else. So vigilance, but days of celebration for the whale.
Excellent.
Those were good days.
Excellent. And once again, it's the Sea Shepherd. The Good Shepherd is an organization here in Hamilton that helps people. So sorry for the mix-up. Before we went to the news break, we were talking about dolphins, and I asked you, what do you think dolphins where do they fit into this world of ours, and what is their purpose?
And I'm delighted to go into that a little bit in depth. I really believe, and the basis of a lot of the work that I do is this. The whales and dolphins appear to be doing a lot more than just being beautiful fish out there or mammals. It seems to me that their music and their sounds are vital to the ocean, and that they are actually using those incredible songs and sounds to keep the oceans in some sort of vibrational balance, and I'll tell you why. The humpback whale, for example, has one of the most important and far-reaching sounds come from the humpbacks. They can do a melody that is 35, 40 minutes long without even repeating itself, which is a sign of something very intricate going on. And these sounds can be projected from half a mile to 500 to 1,000 miles away.
Wow.
Now, that precludes any kind of discussion of them just being using these sounds for mating or hunting. That is a long distance, and we know that nothing is wasted in nature, right?
Right.
So there have been researchers now working on understanding, are they relaying these sounds deliberately to species that are obviously not in their pods that far away for a reason? And what I'm hearing from researchers in the field is that we have, for example, musicians who will play songs into the water or nearby the water. The humpbacks will actually sing back these melodies to them. And then researchers, as far as 1,000 miles away, will report that these melodies are being heard, being sung by the whales in those regions. So I believe that they are deliberately and consciously sending these musical tones or melodies around the planet in some sort of a relay system that is holding the emotional body of the Earth together, and that is the water of Gaia, our planet.
It reminds you of one of the Star Trek movies where they had to go into the past to bring the whales back into the future because something was trying to communicate with the whales, and there were no more whales left on Earth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That was such a powerful movie. I loved it. Yeah. This machine was turning off the lights in the universe because they felt that there was nobody home anymore, and there were only two. I think it was only 2 humpback whales left on the planet. Back when they go back in time, there are only 2 left. That was very poignant, and I think that Gene Roddenberry was, of course, a man from the future.
He was.
He was remarkable. So that was very helpful in waking people up. That film.
So what can we do to help make a change, to ensure that we don't destroy our planet, that we actually start being the caretakers of this planet, which we were, in my opinion, supposed to be doing from day one?
I agree with you. I think that the first thing we need to do, and unfortunately it's not a popular invitation, but I invite people to try to start tuning out on all their electronic diversions and get more grounded as residents, guardians, caretakers of the Earth. Spend more time recognizing how it all works together and how nature is calling out to the human race. We are the so-called intelligent species on this planet, and we need to stop treating animals like circus animals, circus entertainment. I mean, we're sitting eating popcorn watching great whales jump through hoops, for God's sakes. And to not be afraid to talk about the issues in our world that are difficult to hear, so that we can find the strength and the community to work to change them.
You know, in your book, The Emissary, you suggest that there's a relationship between whales and alien submerged craft or colonies. You veil this information in fiction. However, are there a significant number of events of sightings that brought you to this conclusion?
Well, I don't know how many people have seen alien craft when they're out seeing whales, but there is part fiction in that. On the other hand, a number of sightings that are related to Bigfoot, for example, chupacabras. Often there are sightings of UFOs involved in those reports, right? So so many times when Bigfoot is reported, people also talk about craft being seen by more people. And I wanted to introduce that theme into the story because I wanted to kind of open people's minds to the fact that sometimes the phenomenon that we see are not necessarily limited just to the physical realm.
Let me ask you this. You this. You've done miraculous research when it comes to whales and dolphins. I can go to the ocean. I've seen dolphins. I've seen whales. But I've never seen a Bigfoot. I've never seen a chupacabra. And I've never seen a UFO.
Oh.
So my question to you is, how can you be so down to earth and scientific on one side, and then we look at the other side that you introduce into your book because you want to open people's minds about Bigfoot, chupacabras, and UFOs?
Well, that's a good question. I love being considered very scientific because actually most of my work is about extra-dimensional intelligence, UFOs, alien life forms, and galactic councils.
Yeah, I understand that, but I guess my question is, when it comes to whales and dolphins, the research that you're doing can be verified. You can see a whale. You can touch a dolphin. You can go swimming with a dolphin.
Right.
But to my knowledge, and after doing this show for so many years, I still have not talked to anybody who has really any evidence of Bigfoot, evidence of extraterrestrials, and evidence of UFOs.
Okay, well, the theme that's sort of an exciting turn of events in the emissary is when we realize that there is also a colony of aliens underwater. And again, this is a fictional story. However, in answer to your question, there are many reports of unidentified submerged objects coming in and out of the oceans and lakes of this planet. Some of them come from military people. And, for example, there is an anomaly in the ocean right off of Guantanamo Bay, which I'm sure in your experience you've reported on or heard about, which is a big X that's in the deep. And this big X is has been described as appearing to be two runways underwater, and one of them points directly at Guantanamo.
Yeah, I've heard that from people, but I've also heard the explanation that it could very well be a natural phenomenon. It could be a natural creation that when the tectonic plates were forming, that there was that there's a logical explanation and a geophysical explanation for this so-called X. I've also seen and gone swimming in the Bermuda Triangle. I've been on Bimini Wall that people believe is a road to Atlantis. And I go down and I look at it, and to me it doesn't look like a road. It looks like a natural occurrence that happened during the caused by currents, or could be caused by a continental rift.
But there are so many sightings. In the case of this big X off of Guantanamo Bay, there's also been a military man who came out and reported that he was coming back to the base, and he saw a triangle of lights under the water shimmering relatively close up to the surface. And as he approached it, he felt that it was, and he called back to some of his buddies who were not as far as close as he was, and told them to come running. There's an anomaly here. And as he did that, the lights started to change. They started to flicker. And, of course, when they got there, it was gone, and so they said he was crazy. But there are plenty of reports of people seeing craft coming in and out of the oceans, as well as flying all over the planet. And 80% of the people on the planet, they say, believe in ET life.
No. I think your statistics are way off there.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
No. That's rather a very high statistic that I would challenge. So very much.
Okay.
It's just like every major sighting. We can go to the Phoenix Lights. We can go to Stevensville. We can go to Roswell, Area 51. Sensationalism. People are searching for something in today's society. They want something that they're just not being able to grasp in the world of reality, that they seem to have to go outside of what we know or what we believe, and they truly believe that the answer lies above. So many of these people really believe that little gray men from some unknown planet are going to land a spaceship and solve all our problems. Well,
no, I'm with you on this, because I'm always talking as much as I can with people who are in that belief system, and I say, you know what? This is more of the Judeo-Christian savior mode, where it's not Jesus, it's not the Messiah, it's going to be a great mothership that's going to come down and take all the good people, and the bad people are going to remain on a burning planet. And I agree with you that is escapism at best, and it takes us away from being responsible about one major thing. We don't escape this. We are part of this. It's our karma to heal this planet.
I think,
in the current consciousness, if we go somewhere else, we're going to destroy that planet, because we have to learn how to be guardians of the good earth.
Or earth shepherds instead of sea shepherds, earth shepherds, whatever.
Exactly.
There are many mysteries that are discovered and talked about. But for every mystery that is solved, 10 more mysteries pop up. I would love to see a UFO. I would love to see an extraterrestrial. I would love to see a Bigfoot. I want to be a believer. However, I believe it's my responsibility as a journalist to bring both sides of the story to the public and let the public make up their own mind.
I agree.
All right, you and I have to take our final break. Patricia, please stand by. www.theemissary.net. Patricia and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. We'll be right back. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Exonation, Patricia Cori is our special guest this hour, www.theemissary.net. Patricia, why do you think that there are UFOs? Why do you think there are aliens? Why do you think that there's Bigfoot? Have you seen a Bigfoot? Have you seen a UFO? Have you seen an alien?
I've seen several UFOs, and in one case, I had 50 people witness to it and even signing testimony, and that occurred in Egypt when I brought a group of spiritual journeyers through a sacred journey in Egypt, and I managed to get us into Hatshepsut's temple at 4 a.m. on our own. We were up on the top floor, and I had everybody lie down, and I said, look up, don't close your eyes, look up and watch the stars. And we saw a light come on immediately. It was just like a beam suddenly turned on the night sky and started traversing right across the night sky. And this was a crystal clear night with very few stars, and there were stars, but the moon was not bright, so that the sky was very easy to observe. And this thing started to cross across the sky, and somebody said, "What is that? A satellite?" And this thing took a 90-degree turn.
Wow.
Now, that's your first clue that this is not a plane.
Well,
it was a perfect 90-degree turn. Then somebody else said,
how many years
ago
was
this? Oh, my God,
this?
is it? This was 2011.
Could it? Well.
And let me just finish the story, and then you decide. So it took the 90-degree turn, and then somebody else said, oh, my God, this is a UFO. It took another 90-degree turn and continued across the sky. And then somebody said, oh, my God, that looks like a UFO. And I said, hold on, they're not done yet. And then blink, another light went on in the sky and started doing, I'm talking somersaults. We were all breathless in the middle of the desert of Egypt. And it did somersaults, it did zigzags, and it was putting on a show for us. This was no plane. Now, one can rationalize this away as whatever you want to, but this was no plane, this was no fly.
Wow.
This was an unidentified flying object.
Any pictures?
Believe that. No. First of all, you can't get a photo of that when you're with a normal camera. You need all kinds of equipment to be able to do that, and we were just a bunch of spiritual people lying on the terrace of this temple. But we did have 50. Only one person didn't see it, and that's because her eyes were closed. She was meditating. And it's only one of many occurrences that I've had over my life.
Why do you think you've had so many?
I don't know. It started when I was a kid, and I was always very interested in UFOs from an early age. And I've been blessed with having these experiences. But I, like you, it's not that I have to analyze everything, but I don't automatically assume anything either.
Gotcha.
And I don't preach to the choir either. It's just like, this is what my experience was. Most of it I keep for myself. In fact, I don't think I've ever announced over on the air that I've seen UFOs. This might be a first. But in the case of Egypt, 50 people were there. We all had that experience together. And that's powerful.
Patricia, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've got to say so long for now. Continued success with the wonderful work you're doing to save the whales and the dolphins. And Exonation, if you'd like more information about Patricia, her website is www.theemissary.com. That's www.theemissary.net. I'm sorry, emissary.net. We'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I don't know, 50 people seeing a UFO, everybody goes to Egypt, they know they're going to see a UFO, they believe they're going to see a UFO, but nobody brings a camera that can take a picture of that UFO. I'll be back. Don't go away.